So 2 years ago, my wife and I, together with our two teenagers, decided to pull the trigger on purchasing a terraced house here in Singapore. Now the house appeared to be in reasonable condition, so we thought as soon as we had the keys, we'd be able to just move in, take our time to figure out what really needed to be done, how to freshen up the house, and where the money needed to be spent. We knew the kitchen was in pretty poor shape, but the rest of the house seemed okay. So we thought, aside from the kitchen, maybe just a paint job, new curtains, some freshening up to the bathrooms, sand the floors, $60,000 to $70,000 later, we should be in a house that we're happy with. We got it pretty wrong. So let me explain in the rest of this video what we did to try and control the spiraling costs and what the final bill eventually came to. So why did we want to move in straight away without first holding back just to get all the messy works done? Well, there's a few reasons. Obviously, we needed to vacate our old house for the new owners. And to maximize our budget, we wanted to avoid wasting money renting another place to live just for a few weeks or months. And if you recall, during 2021, we were still very much in the COVID pandemic. So finding good, or any available contractors for that matter, was not easy, as suddenly there was huge demand from everyone who had to put renovation plans on hold. But more importantly to us, we wanted to live in the house first and take some time to figure out what really needed to be done and what changes we wanted to make. There were several major expenses that we had totally not accounted for. Probably the biggest being having to change out all the windows. The windows turned out to be in pretty bad shape. They could have lasted a little while longer for sure with some repair works, but again, we want to make these fixes good for the next at least 15 years. So after a lot of agonizing, we decided that that's something we can't avoid. So we just needed to do that. And it's better to do it now while you've got the builders in versus trying to tackle it 5 or 10 years later. So after a few weeks of living in, and by then having decided what we wanted to do to the house, we started reaching out to designers, mostly through word of mouth. My wife is pretty sociable, so she would just talk to the neighbors who are having works done, get the contacts of their designers or their builders, and also just knock on doors of houses in the area that were having works done. I recommend anyone do this. It's often the best way to get contacts versus just trying to find people online. So it wasn't long before we started to gather pricing from various sources, and we started to get a feel of what the cost was going to be for everything that we wanted to achieve. And as you can imagine, this was starting to skyrocket by now. Now, I'm quite a handy guy. I do quite enjoy DIY, and I have a design education from over 30 years ago. And our needs are fairly simple. So I started to think, do we really need a designer? Do we need a design firm to handle everything for us when we're looking for something pretty straightforward? I could use my limited skills to do the planning of the bathrooms and the kitchen especially. I, in full consultation with my wife, of course, could pick out finishes and fittings and potentially dice up the project so that we could bring costs down overall. So with all that in mind, in theory, I would do all the planning and sourcing, project manage the construction works, and save more money by doing some of the works that I can manage myself. For example, all the interior painting. I could fit the curtains. I could fit most of the lighting, do the repainting of the doors and hardware, and whatever else I can do that we could take off the builder just to save some money. Easy, right? Well, let me tell you this. Interior designers, or IDs, are worth every cent they earn, and I have a newfound respect for professional painters. On top of my full-time job, it was probably turned out to be the most stressful 6 months of my life. Project management, the construction, every weekend, every night when I came home, and then every weekend for the next 6 months afterwards spent painting and doing DIY jobs myself, when most people would have been just finished by then. When you hire an interior design firm, they take care of everything. They take care of the design and planning, the actual renovation works, the project management, coordination, material selection. So they really do add huge value if you have a healthy budget. But the real reason for putting myself through all that pain was, of course, to save on money. The budget, as mentioned before, was around 60 to 70,000, but with everything in, including doing some other works myself, eventually came to around 150,000 Singapore dollars. But we did achieve a lot for that money. Complete replacement of all the windows, major remodeling of the kitchen, including removal of walls. All 4 bathrooms plus powder room were hacked out completely and made new. The entire exterior repainted, including waterproofing and painting of the roof. The entire ground floor level was hacked and retiled. Many areas of false ceiling throughout the house were replaced or repaired, and we also rationalised many of the lighting circuits so that they made more sense to us. But if we hadn't engaged an interior designer and I had not taken on some of the works myself, I'm pretty confident the overall cost would have been way in excess of $200,000. And have I mentioned that we actually lived in the house while all the construction works were going on? Most of our friends thought we were crazy to do that, and perhaps we were. Some of the designers who we talked to initially also tried to talk us out of it and even declined to quote on a live-in basis. I think partially because it does make it less efficient if you're trying to live in because you have to think about phasing. But I think the real reason was because they just didn't want the owners looking over their shoulders as they were working. If you're interested in learning from our experience, I would suggest you subscribe because I'm planning next to produce videos that go into more detail of the various aspects of the renovation, particularly around the kitchen and maybe the bathrooms, how we planned, designed, sourced, and executed in all of these different areas. Also, let me know in the comment section if you want any more detail or want me to cover anything that I might have missed, and I'll be happy to get back to you or maybe include that information in future videos. We're still not completely done yet. There's still more painting to be done. I needed a break. The rain canopy around the side of the house needs to be completed, which we dismantled for the exterior painting. So see you in the next videos where I get into the finer detail of the renovation.